Run, sometimes called the Second Manassas, was fought
Prince William County, Richmond, Manassas, Northern Virginia, a border state at the time.
War. This was a high water mark for the South, and was also the start of a long string of defeats for the North at the hands of the South. After the first battle, the North had gathered an army of 150,000 well-equipped men to march on the South, in a pensive movement-style campaign to try and take over the southern capital of Richmond. But due to political problems and disputes among generals, the campaign was delayed. General Lee of the South saw the threat and decided to take advantage of the situation and trying to stop the northern offensive by launching his own counter-offensive. To cripple the northern offensive before it even began. He marched north with 50,000 men. The North reacted quickly, sending General Pope and 62,000 men to counter him and stop him in his tracks. The two armies met at a river of Bull Run and ensured a full standoff between the two armies, with neither side willing to take their brave build and advance on the enemy. In a stroke of genius, General Lee sent 25,000 men under the command of Stonewall Jackson northwest around Pope's flank, while keeping the other 25,000 men to face off against Pope as to camouflage Jackson's movements. Jackson attacked the northern supply base of Manassas at Pope's rear, confusing Pope, who still thought the southern army was still facing off against him. He decided to turn his army round to face Jackson, marching his army at double time to reach him, which gave Lee the chance to reinforce Jackson, thus setting the stage for the Second Battle of Bull Run. The battlefield was fought in between an area of heavy woods and mountains, and the actual battle was set in an open field with various small creeks and waterholes, which acted as a great defensive position. The woods could offer a great hiding position and a place from which the South could ambush the North, which helped in the actual battle to sap the North of troops and morale. The Confederate battle lines were being drew up in choke points with woods and impassable ground to either side of them. This was smart, as it allowed for the South for the first few days to make up their lack of troops by making sure the North can't field a great amount of troops that can fight the South at any one time. The next vital geographic feature in the battle was Stony Ridge. This location was ideal for soldiers because the forest provided concealment and provided high ground for Southern artillery and snipers. Also, an unfinished railroad provided a great depression in the ground, which allowed for a surprise attack against assaulting northern forces. The ridge was also a great amount of boulders, which made attacking the position extremely easy.
There were three main generals involved in this battle. The Union leader going into this battle was Major General John Pope. At the time of this battle, he was 40 years old. He had a good history, having won at New Madrid, Blackwater, and Island No. 10. He was selected by the man himself, President Lincoln, to be in command of the Army of Virginia. The major chief for the Confederate going into this battle was General Robert E. Lee. At the time of this battle, he was 55 years old. He had a good history, having won at Gaines Hill, Glensdale, and Marvin Hills. After this tremendous victory, he would go on to lead other tremendous victory for the South. He was an intelligent man with understanding in operations against a modern industrial opponent. The second major general coming into this battle for the Confederate was Stonewall Jackson. At the time of this battle, Stonewall Jackson was 39 years old. He had a good history with Robert E. Lee and was given his nickname by his defensive tactics and style, being a secure stone wall. A total of 125,000 soldiers engaged. Out of this 125,000, 70,000 was from the Union, whereas 55,000 was from the Confederate. The ratio of the Union soldiers was 14 to 11 on the Confederate. There was an estimate of 22,177 casualties. The Union is believed to have 1,716 killed, 8,215 wounded, 3,893 missing and captured, having a total of 13,824 casualties, whereas the Confederate had 1,304 killed, 7,048 wounded, and an unknown number of missing and captured, having a total of 8,253 casualties. These casualties had an immense impact on the Union. It created a low morale in the northern states and community, as well as causing distrust between the army officials. General Pope was accusing of the unnecessary casualty of his men, making it harder for the North to follow through in their offense. This would have been and also a contributing factor for the further Union losses, such as the Battle of Ox Hill in the state of Virginia, where the 13,000 men could have helped to win such battles.
On the 28th of August, 1862, Jackson had gotten word that the rest of the Southern Army was on the way to back him up, so he positioned his troops in defensive position and forced a confrontation. Due to earlier ambushes and early flanking attacks from the woods and mountains, the Northern troops were not as organized as the Northern generals would have hoped, but still the battle commenced. Southern artillery opened up on advancing Northern columns, forcing them back, followed up by a series of small firefights and skirmishes between small detachments on either side. Sometime later, a brave Northern battalion began marching on a small farm, but were destroyed and routed by Southern battalions hidden in the woods. More Northern battalions emerged, and a battle ensued between the two sides. After a heavy engagement, the North fell back, having sustained heavy losses, without making much ground. After this, Pope ordered his men to begin to surround Jackson's position, and wait till morning to attack. On the second day, Pope sent 26,000 men to storm the ridge on which Jackson had set up his troops on. For hours on end, a large-scale battle ensued, with both sides sustaining heavy losses. Many outflanking moves were made by the North, but to no success, as highly defensive terrain gave the South an advantage. But towards the end of the day, the North had managed to push back the South considerably, forcing Jackson to his secondary line of defense. However, just in time, the rest of the Southern Army arrived, just in time to save Jackson, thus forcing back the North an opportunity, and he ordered the attack. Once again, both sides were pitched on an engagement that lasted for hours, when finally both sides retired. But only however, the North had beaten back and was put in an extremely open position. On the next day, the South pressed home an attack which lasted for about an hour before Pope gave the order for an orderly withdrawal. This one was well thought out, unlike the rout the North suffered at the First Battle of Bull Run. Few losses were sustained during the retreat. The loss at the Second Battle of Bull Run was a major blow to the North because of the area's importance. By winning that battle, the South gained dominance of an important supply line and depot for the North, which were vital for the North's offensives to succeed. The battle also gave the South the upper hand in the next few battles, as the North would have to delay the build-up of its troops for the offensive, so it can come and get the Southern Army, which delayed the Northerners' attack by a considerable amount of time. It also put the South in the target reticles of the North's capital, with barely 50 miles in between them and it. This caused a mass panic in the city and surrounding area, with many politicians and general officials fleeing for safety. The victory South also brought it time to resist the North, which in the scope of the war prolonged it. The battle had most of the North's generals sacked and discarded, which would have made space for the eventual General Grant to show up, as well as making the North rethink their strategies and tactics. The battle forced the North to switch from its plan of defense to a new campaign in Virginia, which gave the South time to prolong. Though it didn't really have too much of an impact on the outset of the war, it was known as a great victory of the South, with the crown jewel for all citizens.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Second Battle of Bull Run.